Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of How I Got on Broadway. I am your host, Uchenna Agbu, and I am so excited for you all to hear our first episode. Before we get started, I would love to give a huge thank you to all of our donors and everyone who made this podcast possible. Today is the day it's all happening. If you like what you see here today, please be sure to follow us on socials, subscribe, and check out our website. Our website is going to include a blog post for each episode as it's released, and the blog post will include lessons learned from the episode and also share any relevant resources. Episodes will be dropped every Monday for the rest of the year, so we hope you're sticking with us for the long haul. Thank you so much for listening, and please enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to How I Got on Broadway. We are joined today by actor Nihar Duvvuri. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, yeah.
How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. So excited for this conversation.
Me too.
All right, so we just met today. Fun fact about me, I love icebreakers, and I think one of the best icebreakers is asking someone about their resume, and yours is pretty impressive. You made your Broadway debut in Sam Gold's take on Romeo and Juliet, and you followed that up with John Proctor's The Villain, which was incredible. Just bursting out of the gate in 2 Tony-nominated plays. I know this question is pretty broad, but what was that like for you?
I feel like while I was in it, I was just like, it was a complete blur. But now looking back in hindsight, yeah, it was definitely a little crazy all at once. And I also left school to do it. So it was just like a huge shift in my life all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think was the most challenging part for you overall?
Most challenging part? Honestly, everything outside of the shows, like figuring out my life while doing that, like figuring out how to be an adult, because I'd been a student for so long and I'd lived like that. And then, yeah, shifting and figuring out how to be a person while doing the shows I think that was the bigger challenge for me than the shows themselves.
Yeah. How did you navigate that? Where do you feel like you are now?
Like in life,
Yeah.
figuring it out, I guess, like lost. I don't know. I don't think I figured it out at all. I think I kind of like muddled my way through that whole thing and was like trying to grasp for air a lot. But it definitely like informed me, the shows, the work, like it informed what I want to do in the future, what the work feels like, what I like about acting. I had to like reframe a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. What was one of the most surprising things that you found as an actor working in the commercial theater space?
I think how like taken care of the actors are. Like the actors are really pampered a lot compared to like, of course, student productions and things like where it's all like you manage everything. Like in the commercial theater space, so much they really just want you to sit in the pocket of your acting and they don't expect you to take care of anything outside of that. The set is taken care of, everything story, like it's all, the director has such clear vision, and all of that allows for the actor to just kind of be a puppet and do the thing without stressing about anything else, which is really nice. I think obviously with commercial theater, the commercial aspects of it were new to me, and like the whole making money aspects of it were jarring to me in many ways. But yeah, it felt very taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah.
You make it sound like it's not stressful, but I'm sure there were a lot of stresses that come with, one, just performing in a Broadway show, doing 8 shows a week. That's a lot.
Sure,
and for Romeo and Juliet, you were understudying roles, right?
Yeah.
How many roles were you understudying?
Just 2. I was
2.
understudying Perez and Romeo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you take us through what the process of learning multiple tracks for a Broadway show is like?
Yeah. It was, I feel like because I was also in the show, it was a lot easier for me to like grasp all of the tracks because I was constantly seeing them every night. But essentially, like during the rehearsal process, you're kind of just keeping an eye on everything, seeing what the tracks are building up to be, why they are the way they are is a big part of it. Like not just knowing what they are, but understanding why the director put them there, understanding why the scene has been blocked this way or built this way. And knowing the intentions of it is way more important than knowing what it is, because you can play around with what it is as long as you know the intentions. And then once you're past previews, I think every week you have 2 understudy rehearsals, 1 or 2. And yeah, during that time is where you really start to build out your version of the track and your version of the character.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were in performance mode doing 8 shows a week, what did your prep look like before you went out on stage?
I would like have a Celsius and then I would go out there. Like I had, I wish I could say I was like really prepping. I mean, I had all the basics. Like I was stretching and warming up and we all were, but our dressing room was just so rowdy. Like people would be playing FIFA on a monitor in our dressing room. It was wild. Like that show, there was no sense of like structured, like we're about to do a Broadway show. Like no, it was like kids going out there to do Romeo and Juliet for themselves. That's what it felt like.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people think that backstage at a Broadway show is so like stoic and serious, but
No. Some people
playing
are. I
around.
know people who are, but yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, being in a Broadway show, it takes a lot of stamina. I know that in your closing week of Romeo and Juliet, you were also rehearsing for John Proctor during the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was. Yeah, the overlap there for that one week was really strange because it was like the closing of one show and then the beginning of another
Yeah.
show all at the same time. The emotional like mix was strange.
Yeah. So what did your day-to-day look like for that 1 week?
The day-to-day of it was like, I think it was like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. rehearsals, and then I would get released at like 5:30 so that I could make my 6:30 call time for Romeo and Juliet, and then I would do the show. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah,
what,
that was-
what did self-care look like for you at that time?
So there's no self-care. It's like you
Amazing.
sacrifice self-care so you can do shows. But I mean, I think the thrill of it is there. You feel very motivated and purposeful. So you don't feel like as distressed as some people might think it is. You feel really good about all of it. So the self-care is there in between. You make sure you eat, like drink water and sleep. Outside of that, I think you're just working.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. It energizes you, I guess, to an extent.
definitely.
Okay. So these 2 shows we're talking about, I guess they could kind of be viewed as phenomena, especially for how it resonated with younger audiences. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on why John Proctor and Romeo and Juliet brought such young audiences to the Broadway theater in a time where people think that that's something that young people really aren't doing.
Yeah, I think a big part of it was these shows speak to the Gen Z audience, the way they were built, produced, the actors in them. They're all very young. But I also do think young people are craving theater, and I think that there is a sort of renaissance of theater happening among the youth in general, part of it because of like AI and everything is happening now, and people crave human connection more so than ever. And I think people are recognizing that more and more as a pure form of human connection. And I think young people discovering that through our shows is beautiful. And I just hope it opens doors for more and more young people to see theater, do theater. Yeah.
Yeah. What impact has both of those shows had on you as a person?
I'm sure a lot. I can't say specifically, but I think it's like that simple thing of like you take on a role or do a show and you just walk a little differently after because of the show, maybe because of the people in it and the way you were affected by just friendship and community. It's really hard to say. I feel very different now than I did a year ago, but I can't quite place why.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's like an intrinsic thing that's changed about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So as a South Asian actor in these, frankly, Broadway hits, you've certainly been an inspiration to a lot of young artists in the world. I know for me, watching you all and John Proctor was such a beautiful experience. I went to see it twice. I left the theater crying both times, not only because of the performances and the incredible work that was being done, but just the real representation that we saw on stage. I just thought it was so beautiful. So my question for you is, throughout your career, what representation has kind of inspired you as an artist?
I really don't know. I wish I could say that South Asian representation inspired me as much as like I would like it to, but I feel like in general it's always just been art that inspires me.
Yeah.
And representation is very important, but isn't my primary reason for doing it. I think every time I see representation, I get really excited, but I get really, really excited if it's just good art that they're doing. Yeah, and John Proctor was interesting because that role, I don't think it's a role that immediately people would be like, oh yeah, an Indian person should be Mason and John Proctor. But Danya really saw something there, and in Amalia, who's Asian and she's playing Raylan, I think she saw universality in those characters. And I think when representation is able to speak to universality in that way, that really excites me. because we're all, again, looking for just human connection and truth. And when it speaks to that, I really do. Representation does something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the tagline on your website talks about wanting to bring South Asian stories into American media, which I feel like just going hand in hand with that, seeing people of different backgrounds represented on stage and in media isn't just about the cultural connection. It is just about seeing people in roles that they wouldn't immediately be expected to be in. So what has the journey of feeling like you want to bring your background to roles into media looked like for you? What has that journey been?
Yeah. It's weird because it feels like the less I focus on the bringing representation to it, the better I'm able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the better I'm able to work towards that goal. Just the more I focus on specificity about bringing myself and whatever I carry with me as a South Asian person, but also just as a person, like a person from the Bay Area, like, and that community is like so many Indian people, and it's like a little subsect of the South Asian population. But just bringing like a hyper specificity to everything I do, I think that really hopefully resonates with people and caters towards that goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I also saw a quote that you had saying a lot of the roles that you want to play just don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say is your dream role if there was a role that you could just describe that doesn't exist yet?
My dream role is like a role that like I'm writing. Like I also write and I want to make films, and I think a lot of the roles that I look up to and like dreamed about doing in Hollywood, roles that I'm like, I wish I had gotten that. Like Minari, like that movie is so incredible. Riz Ahmed, like all of the roles he does, like the night for Sound of Metal, or like Elio in Call Me By Your Name, just really complex, nuanced human characters. I feel like are, at least as of right now, there are very few roles like that written for South Asian actors to play. And I guess people have to write them. And so I think that's where it starts. And writing is that for me, and how I'm trying to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not just for myself, but for everyone who can.
Yeah. Have you written anything fun lately?
Yeah.
Do
And
you wanna
that's
talk about it?
all I will say about that.
Good. We'll be waiting. Don't worry. All right. So you're also about to star in a Netflix film with some greats, in my opinion, Hassan Minhaj and Maitreyi Ramakrishnan, who are two people who've done so much for South Asian representation in media. Looking back and just looking at these credits, what do you think are some of the key steps you took that led you to where you are today?
I don't know. I guess I keep coming back to focusing on the art.
Yeah.
Like focusing on acting. If you're an actor, focus on the acting, on putting out good work, on treat every audition as not an audition as much as you're creating a little art piece to present, and it doesn't really matter whether you get the role or not. Like that role happened so quickly. Like I found out a day before about the audition, and then 2 days later I got it after like two sets of Zoom auditions.
Oh, goodness.
And so like sometimes it's like that. But with John Proctor, I had auditioned for Danya a year prior and didn't get the role. And I had gotten really close, and I was like devastated. But then like full circle happened, and like then John Proctor happened. And so I think like focusing on the art and just constantly presenting good work begets good work. And I think that's where the focus should be when it comes to auditioning and working and getting roles. Yeah.
So you were at NYU for a little over a year, right?
Yeah, 1.5 years.
While you were there, was the goal to make it to Broadway, or were you just like in the work doing what you had to do as an acting student?
I think I was definitely doing what I had to do as an acting student. I don't think Broadway was actually ever a goal for me, because I never did theater till I got to college.
Yeah.
But I definitely was like, if I get the chance to book a role and drop out, I would love that.
And
so,
you did it.
Yeah, and that kind of worked out. So I think, yeah, it was hand in hand. I was constantly working towards like professional opportunities, but also in school. And it was really a right place, right time, a bit of luck, and I happened to be ready to meet that luck.
Yeah. And the thing you booked was the Smash Workshop, right?
Yeah.
And that was a musical.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
That was wild. I'd never done a musical. I'm not like a strong singer, and I had to sing 4 lines in that show, and it was
Amazing.
like the most anxiety-inducing like 10 seconds of that show for me. But it was such a good time. All the people there were so cool. I learned so much. That was just it was a really cool way to start, I think, for me at least. I just learned a lot.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So switching hats a little bit. In 2020, when you were a high school student yourself, you actually founded a nonprofit organization that was dedicated to implementing speech and debate programs in low-income schools across the nation. I don't know if this is a California thing, but back in Jersey, kids were not creating 501c3s just on a whim. How did that project come about for you?
That came out it came about during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Speech and debate is actually where I started acting, really, because speech has this. There are events called interpretation events, and I did dramatic interpretation mainly. But that's where I really started like finding my voice as an actor, especially because you get to create your own or like adapt your own projects in it. But then the pandemic happened, and my speech and debate like journey basically kind of ended there, because everything transitioned to Zoom, but it didn't feel the same, and I wasn't really feeling it. But I did want to bring speech and debate to more people, and at the time, everyone in our school was trying to figure out how to like do volunteer services and things like that, and I needed to meet my community hours, and so I decided like I wanted to actually work with the school to like bring speech and debate to them, and so that's how Project SD happened. And at the time, it was viable because of Zoom and everything. We were able to raise some money and have some like student volunteers and host Zoom like lessons and start a speech and debate program within their school. And that's how that happened. Yeah.
That's amazing. What do you feel like were the top 3 skills that transferred from debate into acting on a Broadway stage?
Just feeling comfortable in your body performing, definitely. Feeling like being in a room in front of people. And like throwing away your self-consciousness, perhaps. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. I read an interview, obviously. I did a lot of reading on you before coming here.
I didn't know I had that many interviews to read.
Honestly, there were a few. I was like, okay, we're learning. You brought up a quote saying how everyone should practice some kind of art because the purpose is to make your soul grow. So post all of these projects and the experiences you've had, how do you feel like those recent projects have made your soul grow?
I feel like with John Proctor especially, I do feel like an urge to be a little kinder to everyone in the world, a little more curious. I think that whole show, Mason sat in curiosity, and I really let that bubble within me for that role, and I think that has continued to stay with me after. Curiosity has just, I think everyone could grow from being a little more curious about the people around us.
Yeah. Amazing. And then, as an actor, writer, director, what kinds of stories overall do you think the world needs to hear right now? I know it's a hard one.
Yeah. Needs to hear is tough. I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah. What do you think the world wants to hear?
Wants to hear? I don't know. I think people want less, like, content type of entertainment. I don't think people want things that feel mindless or feel formulaic anymore. I think people are craving original content. I think we're seeing a resurgence of that. Like, Sinners came out this year, and that was amazing. And then One Battle After Another, like, 2 very different but both original stories, massive in scope, and they really resonated with people. I think people are craving that. John Proctor's The Villain, that's an original as well. I think people want to see stories from individuals with a very unique perspective and how that perspective translates to art. But it's hard to say. It's always shifting, I guess. Yeah.
What are some other things you feel like you've seen recently that resonated with you, or you felt like, I wish everyone could see this as like required viewing?
As required viewing? Oh. I just saw this movie called It Was Just an Accident. And it's about this. It takes place in Iran, I believe. The whole movie is in Farsi. But you can see it with subtitles. And it's about like this man that he kidnaps this man who he thinks is his former torturer. And as he's like burying him, he starts to have a doubt about whether this is actually his torture or not, because the guy is saying like, it's not me, you're burying the wrong person, like don't do it. And like this guy like stops for a second. He's like, shoot, is this the guy or not? And so he goes and tracks down a bunch of the torturer's victims, and they're all trying to identify this guy. But it becomes this huge psychological, societal like mind problem for them, and about morality, and the whole thing takes place in the authoritarian regime in America right now. We're kind of, I think it'll speak to a lot of people here. Yeah, I think that movie was really brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds super original.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
And going on originality, going back to the 2 shows that you've recently starred in, John Proctor, Romeo and Juliet, What were the biggest differences between bringing a revival that was reimagined versus an original work like John Proctor?
I think having the playwright in the room was like made miles of a difference because we didn't have William Shakespeare in the room, unfortunately. But we did have Kimberly Bellflower, who is like actually a genius, and her writing is so intelligent. But having her in the room, you see that the writing just reflects her intelligence because she knows why every line is the way it is. We would be hyper specific. Like if I said, I'm sorry, she would be like, no, the line is, I'm sorry. And it was down to the way the character spoke, why words are the way they are, and having that kind of clarity on everything about a character. Again, I felt like just so taken care of as an actor because I could kind of be this puppet and do what was needed. With Romeo and Juliet, it was a lot more up to interpretation. We had a whole week of just table reading. Every day we would just read and at a table and then talk about like why do we think it's this, and there was just so much more interpretation, and that was fun. There was a lot more leeway to change things and having different approaches to things. But yeah, a different type of clarity when having the playwright in the room, I suppose.
Yeah. What kind of things did you discover about your process as an actor between those two?
I think through both, I kind of learned to step away a little bit from what I had learned in school, which was a much more rational intellectualization of acting, and just lean into like instinct instead and imagination, and just be a kid and let your mind wander and follow your instincts. Yeah.
Do you have a preference for a revival versus an original?
No. Good writing's good writing, I think.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to give advice to any young or newer actors hoping to break into the space, what would you say?
As an actor, focus on acting, focus on making good work, be in your room, practice monologues, record them yourself, and then watch them and then do them again and give yourself notes and see how that works. And just really focus on acting and find your voice as an actor. I think the rest, all the business aspects of it, you can do that, but unless that foundation isn't there, the rest of it doesn't matter as much. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. On that note, those are all the questions I've got.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So fast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Nihar Duvvuri, everyone.
Thank you.